What's up, everyone? Today we are going to do a clan boss takeover, and I'm actually kind of excited about this one. He's right now been toying with moving to a Fu Myth clan boss team on a Myth-Heir team. And the problem with Myth-Heir is if your damage dealer is magic, you're going to have to switch to a force affinity damage dealer to pull the stun away from Harris when the boss goes spirit. And because if the boss is spirit, it's going to target the weakest affinity, which is hair, and she can't take a stun because she can't cleanse herself if she's stunned. So you got to put in a weak affinity damage dealer in there. Geomancer is a good option still puts in a solid 15 to 20 mil. But at the end of the day, what we're going to do is switch that team up. So when you have Fushan in as the lead, because he's force affinity, he by default is going to be A in the lead and B take the stun away from Harris altogether. So what we're going to try and do is change it up. Now, it's a big jump from a Myth-Heir to a Fu Myth. And the difference is you don't have Deacon's speed lead. You only have Fushan's speed lead. But the biggest miss here is Deacon's increase turn meter, whereas Fushan doesn't have that. So by losing that increased turn meter per round, you're going to need more speed on everybody else. And that is anywhere from 4 to 5 speed in terms of the damage dealer. I believe the damage dealer needs like 8 or 9 speed. A couple of glyphs on everybody is pretty much going to be the difference between a Fu Myth and a Myth-Heir. Now, if your gear is fully glyphed and maxed out, you're going to have to re-gear the champions. And this is where the problem comes in. But if we have pieces that are not glyphed, it ends up being relatively easy to move to that team. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and switch. All right, so let's start. I've already changed Fushan. Fushan's not really used on this account very often. He was about 210 speed, so I dropped him to 185. So that is actually a requirement. I got rid of the crit rate gloves for crit damage gloves, bumped him up to 270 crit damage. Only 80% crit rate, but if the boss goes magic, that's going to be 100%, and Fushan's actually going to hit quite hard. If the boss is void or anything else, whatever, it's 80%. We can optimize that later, but all I wanted to do is not waste my whole morning changing this team up. Good enough for now. So we got a 1 piece speed, 1 piece crit damage, and then a couple of mixed pieces here. And then we went with an accuracy banner. Doesn't really need accuracy because we're going to be pairing Fushan with Dracomorph, and Dracomorph is going to be putting up the decreased defense and weaken. So we can do away with Fushan's accuracy and then switch this banner out for an attack banner just to gain that much more attack. So maybe what we'll do is we'll swap out this for an extra 500 damage. We don't really need that accuracy because, like I said, Dracomorph is the one doing it. If you have revenge accessories, those are great. Like this one would be perfect. Get the extra chance to counterattack. And then again, 2-piece attack with some defense at the end of the day. Good enough. So there we have it. Fushan is built at 185. That's the optimal speed requirement. Okay. Now Seeker needs to get to 183. So Dracomorph needs to be at... Right now, Draco is in full damage setup, 6.2k attack, 250. Ideally, we want to bump that crit damage up. We can sacrifice some attack for some crit damage. But we're going to need to get to 166 speed. So we're going to have to go up by 9 speed on here. Next, we have Demitha. Demitha and Harris are going to be the two most challenging ones because they're already your two fastest champions. At 274 Mytha, you're going to need to get Demitha up to 290. So this is the biggest jump here. 274 up to 290. You're looking at a full 16. That's Demitha. I think it's doable. We are going to have Harris as the next difficult champion. And Harris needs to get to 261. And she's at 247. So that's another 14 speed at a minimum. And then the last one is Seeker. So Seeker's a relatively easy one. We need to get up to 183. And I believe he's currently at 170 or 171, 172. Okay. So with Seeker, it's only 11 more. Being that Seeker's only 183, you could probably get away with less speed rolls and lesser requirements, and even attack percent boots on your damage dealers, your lower damage. Draco's 166. You should easily be able to do attack percent boots. 185 with the Fushan, you can get away with attack percent boots, and same with Seeker at 183. So those are the requirements. What we're going to go ahead and do is tear this team apart. The best part is this person doesn't know I'm doing it. So he's always wanted to do this. He's never really got around to it. I got a few minutes. I'm going to go ahead and do it. I already did a nightmare run, and I have a screenshot, but I'm going to post the screenshot. It is Magic Affinity. I'm going to switch this team up and do it again just to compare results. I've gotten a lot of comments on my last Myth-Heir video that it was on brutal. That's not the point. The point is it works and it does a lot of damage. So when I switched to a Fu Myth team, I think it was done on Void, and they wanted to see it on different affinities, and I'll do that. And I don't have a problem with that. It's just I got to wait until it gets to affinity so that I can do it. But today I'm just testing it on Magic Nightmare just to test out the difference in damage and what the increase actually is. That's the only reason I'm doing it. We're going to go ahead and make this change. I'll show you the skill setup afterwards. Here we go. All right. So we were able to get it. We got some luck. I didn't use too many glyphs. We're going to make a new one. Clearly the team presets aren't used. Actually, let's put it closer to the top. We need to go with a Fushan in the lead. Problem with having too many champs is you can't find them. I know, first world problems, right? And I'm sure you caught it already and was like, it's right there. It's right there. You missed it. Go back. Okay. And then we're going to put our damage dealer in second position. We're going to put Mytha in third. Now, the in-betweens don't really matter, but I do like to separate everyone as far as I can because I don't want Harris here. So there is the team. Now, there is a setup required. So we're going to go through this setup. Fushan is not going to use that A2. Although it's a double hitter, it doesn't hit as hard as the A1 with that extra hit. So you want more chance at Howl. Shred, however, does hit harder because it's a guaranteed 4 hit, which exceeds the damage on Howl. So that's why I still use that. Draco, what we're going to do is we're going to prioritize the debuffs and then go into the... Demitha needs to prioritize the A3. And I make sure, now although the AI may do this, I still need to want this to happen in this way. For whatever reason, if there's not a debuff, because Harris, for example, does this, if there's no debuffs up, she won't use her cleanse. Well, you want her to use her cleanse because it's also an increased speed, right? Seeker, what we're going to do is we're going to open with the A1 just so that we can delay the increased turn meter by a turn. And then Harris, on the other hand, we are just going to make sure we open with that increased speed. So speed requirements here, 185 on Fushan. Dracomorph needs to be at 166. Demitha at 290. Seeker at 183. And Harris is at 261. Now, the reason why you do need a calculation here for spirit to work. So there is a small calculation that would be required for spirit to work. I'm just pulling it up here. So Harris needs to be over 280, true speed. In a full speed set, one speed set. Okay, so with one speed set at 261, the true speed is actually 283.53. And it needs to be over 280, So speed-wise, 1 speed, 2 speed, 3 speed, as long as it's 261 works. The other thing is the DPS needs to be less than Seeker's true speed times 7.15 divided by 7.8. Excuse me. So 7.15 divided by 7.8 is 0.916666666667. Just do 7.15 divided by 7.8 and then multiply it by Seeker's true speed, which in this case, it's 190.54. 190.54, and the damage dealer needs to be less than that. At 166, it's 189.52. So we are just under by a full speed. So for spirit to work, speed requirements are there. Setup wise, now we're going to go full auto. This team is full auto. I'm going to watch this because this is the first time. Being it magic, we shouldn't have a problem with the stun, but I just want to make sure when we do hit spirit, this is where we're going to have to just keep an eye on it closely. Again, I'm only doing this for damage comparison. I'm not going to keep this key. So we're going to just fast forward to the end and see how this team actually compares in terms of damage. Pulling up the screenshot, we last did on Magic, on Nightmare, exact same affinity, comparing apples to apples. We did 93.94 mil previously. Some of the champs gained some crit, some of the champs lost some crit. At the end of the day, this is strong affinity for Fushan. So again, that 80% crit rate. He's by default got 100%, which means he's going to hit quite hard. And we're just going to let it run and catch you all at the end. Okay. And then we'll compare the damages at the end of the run. So at this point, we've already exceeded the damage of the previous team, and we still have 13 turns to go. Well, there you have it. 124 mil. That'll probably be 125, 126 million damage. Again, it's on Nightmare, but to compare apples to apples, I wanted to run a Nightmare run just to see what the damage increase would have been from a Myth-Heir team to a Fu Myth team. So 124.8, probably get to 126 on Nightmare. But as you could see, 93.94 is what we did on a full key on Nightmare on Magic. So exact same day, exact same affinity, exact same boss, and I was able to find over 22 million damage more. More, because the biggest difference here is Fushan is probably putting up 30 plus mil, whereas Deacon only did 8. So this is where you're going to get that damage increase just by sacrificing a bunch of glyphs and a bunch of silver and some time. So there you have it. I'm going to run this team. He always struggled on Force Affinity because, again, Draco was the only one and he's weak Affinity. So damage-wise across the rest of the team, and Seeker and Draco, the two highest damage dealers here on a Myth-Heir team, are weak Affinity to Force. So now that I have Fushan in the mix, which is a Force DD, he's going to be putting up normal damage. Draco will get the nerf, and hopefully they'll balance out to still be a 1 key. So that's what we're going to go ahead and do. Just to check it out, I know he's posted screenshots before being at 69, just shy of 1 mil. So we're going to go ahead and get that done. All right, so here we go. Again, it's a full auto team right from the beginning. You don't need to watch it. You don't need to look at it. If you noticed in the last video, Draco was taking the stun because Fushan and Harris were actually strong affinities. So he was looking for somebody else, and Draco has the least amount of HP and defense naturally. Here it's going to be, there's no spirit champion. Being that it's strong affinity, what we have is, again, we have Draco and we have Seeker that are weak affinity here. So they'll be taking the stun, which is fine because Harris does not need the stun. Now, Draco's going to be weak, so he's going to be failing his poisons. He's going to be failing at some of his hits and be doing some weak damage. Naturally, it's going to happen, but decreased defense and weaken should still go up because he places them. And or we have Fushan. Although I took away some of his accuracy, there is still some accuracy in there for that chance that if Draco does fail, Fushan there. So we're going to let this run. It does take a few turns to set up on Ultra Nightmare, which is why you saw that the champs did take some hits here. But I believe it's around turn 5 or 6 that we get full in sync. Once again, as long as Harris doesn't take the stun, we should be good. And there we go. With 7 turns to go, we've officially exceeded a 1 key damage. All right, so there we have it. 82 million, well over a 1 key on Ultra Nightmare, Force Affinity. We had Fushan doing 24 million damage on his own. Now, that Fushan has 80% accurate or crit rate. If we could find better gear to go up to 100%, that damage is definitely going to increase. So Dracomore still did a respectable 25 million damage, even though he was weak affinity, and that came from being able to put that decreased defense and weaken to help the whole team out. 4 poisons at a time, not necessarily all 4 are going to fail at the exact same time. Maybe 1 or 2 or 3, but you'll still get that poisons out. And then, of course, the counterattack damage, the physical damage, even with War Master procs. He still out-damaged Fushan, and he was weak affinity. But there you have it. You never have to worry about switching a team up. You never have to worry about affinity anymore. Even if it goes spirit, the roles will be reversed. Draco will actually be doing more damage, being that it's spirit and he's strong affinity. And then Fushan will be doing less. You'll probably get around the same amount of damage. Maybe a little bit more because all the poisons will land all the time. But for the most part, you're looking at anywhere from 82 to 85 million on any affinity. Magic's going to be the best because Draco's neutral, but Fushan is strong. And we'll get that bonus crit rate on that. There you have it. If you're ever wondering if a Fu-Myth team is worth it, I think this answers the question. Take care, everyone. Catch y'all in the next video.